They say back to basics, keep it fair. Just a warm, dry home away where rent jumps yearly, no apology. Ay, market adjustment theology. They say be grateful, smile, behave. While landlords get another tax break, we're going back to basics. That's the line they always say. Can't afford the rent in Auckland. Can't afford it.
And welcome to tonight's Order Paper podcast. We've got Detective Rogers filling in for Laura because Laura's got this lovely thing called Green Party stuff. So, how are you this week?
I'm not too bad, Sam. How's your week been? How's your summer been, mate?
There's been a lot of Order Paper podcast shows that you find out all sorts of interesting things in there. It's been great that my coffee cart has had a nice local home that it could stay in over the school holidays. That unfortunately ends this week because school term starts.
Okay.
And I'd have to be honest, if you are out there at the moment in the event sector, I think the weather is telling us you don't hold an event in January because it's likely to be rained out.
So your weather advice is to wait till February.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It's like the roofing season, isn't it? When all the roofers come out to work in February.
I don't know much about roofs. I never owned a home.
Yeah. Well, it's So that's they're one of the things that start off in there. Yeah. So tonight's while we don't have Laura, however, set the agenda.
That's better. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know.
Lovely of her to do.
Oh, it's what happens when you have a week in Parliament of the Prime Minister's speech, and I mean, to be honest, the Prime Minister's speech stuff is just an absolute. It's just basically mudslinging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mudslinging. So there's nothing actually useful that actually gets said in there. There's no debate and legislation. It's not like it's exactly making laws. It's great that it's there. But as Laura said, there was a couple of bills that went through. Laura's recommended this one because the other annoying thing is Parliament's back on recess starting tomorrow because of a lovely day called Waitangi Day.
Oh, that's our favourite day.
Oh, I know. So we're going to be losing the MP.
Prime Minister's favourite day. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're now going to try and make all these bills try and stretch out across 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a little bit. You know how frustrating that is. You know how you try to make sure that the 1 week of work stretches out over 2 weeks.
Honestly, I kind of don't because I haven't really passed a bill through. So maybe it's
you're
harder work than you think.
Yeah.
I'd have to try it out.
Yeah, well, you can always stand for that. Now, just before we get into the bills, we do have a poll on YouTube. Are your enrolment details up to date? So if you'd like to vote in that poll to do it, and if your enrolment details aren't up to date, go to vote.nz and update your enrolment details. If you have your driver's license or your New Zealand passport on you, you can sit there and update that without a signature. If you do not have those two, you'll need to get a lovely form and send it off and post it and keep New Zealand Post Service employed.
So you're doing a poll that's going to be soon to be irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to recommend people to change their status.
Well, it's a good reminder to update the enrolment details.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get on to the first bit. Let's get to Dolores Umbridge.
All right.
Yep. Well, that's what we call it, Dolores Umbridge. It's no point calling her Brooke Van Velden because.
Yeah, it's an act bill, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's a government bill, but yes,
An
pretty
act
much.
pushed amendment.
Yeah. She is the Minister of Labour, so it kind of makes sense. So let's kick off and hear Brooke in her first speech, and we'll get that onto 1.3. Now, good news, they just passed the treaty settlement bill here. That's why there's a Waiata. Come on, hurry up.
Madam Speaker, I move that the Employment Relations Amendment Bill
Sorry,
be
you were
now
a bit
read a
drowned
second
out
time.
before. What was
Madam
was the
Speaker,
Waiata
this
about?
bill is a key part of
The Waiata was about the previous bill that was passed, which is a treaty settlements claim bill. I'll just check the Hansard because I'll be able to actually tell you, not the Hansard, Daily Progress of the House, tell that which one it is because a treaty settlement bill got passed just before that one. So the treaty settlement bill was the Ngāti Hawa claim settlement bill, which passed its third reading just before this bill had a interrupted second reading debate. Yeah. Well, let's get back to Dolores Umbridge, better known as Brooke Van Velden, and suffer these punishments that she wants to issue out.
of the government's commitment to providing greater certainty for businesses and workers, supporting economic growth and ensuring our employment relations framework is fit for a modern, dynamic economy. I want to begin by acknowledging the work of the Education and Workforce Committee. The committee has carefully considered the bill, received thousands of submissions, and recommended a number of targeted changes while keeping the bill's core objectives intact. I thank the committee members, officials, and all those who took time to share their views. The committee's recommendations align with the government's own decisions on how to enhance the bill.
I'm not sure if she's going to cover that. What are the core objectives of the bill?
She will tell you that.
Oh, she is going to get into that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 10-minute speech.
The bill, as reported back, remains focused on the same four core areas. These are providing greater certainty for contracting parties, strengthening the consideration of accountability for the employee's behaviour in the personal grievance process, providing an income threshold for ineligibility for unjustified dismissal personal grievances, and removing the 30-day rule to improve freedom of choice and cut red tape at the beginning of employment. Together, these changes will improve labour market flexibility across the spectrum, whether that be through more flexible contracting arrangements or more opportunities to develop future business leaders in high-wage, high-impact roles. Today, I want to highlight two sets of changes proposed during the Select Committee. That was the refinements to the contractor provisions and the adjustments to the income threshold for unjustified dismissal personal grievances. The bill introduces a new gateway test that provides a clearer and more efficient legal test for clear-cut, genuine contracting arrangements, which gives weight to the intention of contracting parties. This is a significant step forward for business certainty. The committee has recommended some refinements to the gateway test criteria to reflect the realities of contracting work. These refinements will ensure that the test covers the intended types of contracting arrangements where they meet the substantive criteria. The gateway test now explicitly covers situations where a business facilitates work for a third party. This ensures that the gateway test is fit for purpose for contemporary platform-based working arrangements that offer job and income without direct contractual obligations in that relationship. For the intention criterion, the test now clarifies that a business can specify in the written agreement that the worker is either an independent contractor or not an employee. This means businesses that don't classify workers as independent contractors can still use the gateway test. For the restriction criterion, the test makes clear that contracting a worker for full-time work will not in of itself constitute a restriction on working for others. This addresses a risk that the Employment Relations Authority or the Employment Court might interpret full-time work as a restriction on being able to do other work. For the subcontracting criterion, the test now enables businesses to vet subcontractors for relevant qualifications or criminal records, where justified by the nature of the work. This strikes a balance between the contractor's ability to subcontract work with the business's ability to ensure quality of work is retained. These changes respond to submitters who sought greater clarity of arrangements covered and flexibility in the new gateway test. The result is an improved gateway test that offers businesses and workers the clarity they need to plan ahead. The bill also sets an income threshold above which an employee cannot seek a personal grievance claim on grounds of unjustified dismissal. This is about improving labour market mobility and enabling businesses to give workers a go in a high-earning, high-impact role, and fostering the next generation of talent, which I'm sure all of us across this House will be in favour of. I want to point out two significant adjustments the committee has proposed to the threshold. First, the threshold will now be based on total annual PAYE income from the employer, not just base salary or wages. This ensures all forms of employer-based remuneration, that being bonuses, commissions and employee share schemes, are captured, reflecting the reality of many types of modern pay structures. I'm aware that many of these structures are common in startups and growing companies that could benefit from the threshold, where agility is critical for success. Second, the threshold itself will be lifted to $200,000. This ensures that the number of people captured by the threshold doesn't increase in light of adopting a wider definition of income, striking a balance between flexibility and protection. This figure will be adjusted based on upward movements in average wages every year after 2027. These changes reflect the feedback of stakeholders that wanted to ensure...
I'm not sure if you want to address it.
Sorry, say again?
Someone's been kind enough to drop you a super chat.
Yes, that's Lord Alex's super chats. Yes, we'll discuss that at a later point.
Oh, okay. All right, no worries.
The policy intent is delivered in a fair and workable way. The bill's other provisions are unchanged substantially. The bill retains its measures to strengthen the consideration of and accountability for the employee's behaviour in the personal grievance process, including removal of eligibility to all remedies when an employee engages in serious misconduct. The bill also revokes what is known as the 30-day rule. This will allow employers that are party to collective employment agreements to hire new employees on bespoke flexible terms for the first 30 days of employment, which will reduce compliance costs. These terms could include a 90-day trial period if both parties agree, supporting the government's intended expansion of the 90-day trial policy and making hiring easier. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, this bill is about restoring confidence and balance to the employment system. It supports business growth and innovation while maintaining core protections for employees. It responds to the realities of a changing labour market, and it does so in a way that is clear, pragmatic and future-focused. I thank the committee again for its work and for all of those who took the time to contribute to the process. The changes proposed during Select Committee consideration have improved the bill, and they align with the government's own decisions on how to enhance the bill. I commend this bill to the House. Thank you.
The question is...
Apparently, it's great for employees. It protects them. It's enhancing their protections.
Well, it
Tell us,
depends,
Sam.
it depends which way you want to do it. I mean, I've had restriction of trade jobs in the past where they've put restrictions on what other things you can do, but not even give you like full-time hours. Now, that's something that, definitely needs to be swiped out to allow people to have the ability to do this. This was something that was said a lot about. I've seen this happen before where you would be put into a job, you would have to make yourself available for twice as many hours of what you need to survive, and have a juggling around roster. I mean, some of that happened with 0-hour contracts where they wanted you to be exclusive with one employer while simultaneously not guaranteeing you even enough to sit down there and even pay the bills. So that possibly is one aspect, but in a lot of aspects there, like, trying to take away the things were like, was it unjustified dismissal, that sort of stuff.
They're raising the threshold, is it?
Well, no, they're raising the threshold of when you can, of when you might not be able to claim. So at the moment, if you're a CEO of, say, a council or, say, Te Whatu Ora, and you're upset with the way how things are treated, you could actually take a personal grievance against your employer. Brooker's trying to remove that.
Completely.
Yeah, it is definitely something that is not what we would like to sit there and see. Obviously, that's her choice on what it is. Is that necessarily a good thing in there? So, it's basically, and also the other thing is, it's not a much common thing out there, but if you start a new job and your employer has a collective employment agreement, you automatically are on that agreement for your first 30 days of your contract before you can actually sign up to either you stay on the collective employment agreement or you go onto an individualized contract. I know when I started at BP, I was on the collective employment agreement and I stayed on the collective employment agreement. Even that in the case of BP, the collective employment agreement.
And that was automatic the whole time. You never needed to opt in. Okay.
Yeah. And so she's removing the provision of opting in out of the system.
It's kind of soft, like union crushing in a way. It's less crushing the unions themselves and just the result, I guess.
And also, like, the other one is about like taking, like, whether if you contribute to a dismissal, to take away any payback from it. Now, it needs to actually be determined whether the contribution to the dismissal is actually fair and justified. One of the things I hate is if you are being punished because you object to following the law. So imagine if you got told by your employer, "Oi, you must drive at a minimum of 120 kilometres an hour on your way to work. And if you don't do it, I'll sit there and give you a written warning."
I'd be so happy.
Yeah. But
I could drive that fast.
You'd still get the demerit points when getting caught for speeding.
I'm not immune. I'm sorry. I assumed I was immune.
No, get real. Or if you're being told to breach food safety regulations.
Okay.
And that could be considered as a contribution of it. Because to an employer not wanting to follow food safety regulations or driving hour regulations, they would say, well, they contributed to the dismissal. And does the employer's bad words, unsafe practices, should that contribute to it? Because, that could be construed that way. And many cases that go through the employment courts tend to rule in favour of the employer, not the employee. It is very difficult for an employee to actually get an appropriate remedy. And often the ones who tend to get that tend to be in the unions. You don't tend to see that happen so much in individual employment situations.
And that's just done like through normal disputes court, right?
Yeah, through the Employment Relations Authority or through the mediation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anything
they do have their own authority to do that.
Yeah, they have their own branch under the district court.
I was going to say, because that result-wise, the favorability towards companies is sounding very much like the tenancy tribunal.
Exactly. Which tenancy tribunal is the same level for tenancy-related stuff that's underneath the district court.
Yeah. Well, tenancy tribunal is not legally binding, though. I wonder, is it the same with the one we're talking about?
Employment Relations Authority is legally binding. However, it can be challenged, and I think the challenge, I'm not sure if you can challenge it via the district court or if it has to go to the High Court. In the case of tenancy tribunal, if you put an appeal, you're appealing it to the district court. You're not appealing it to the High Court. I'm not. Employment Relations Authority sits on there, and I mean the whole point of the tribunal is to give people access to justice that might not financially stack up.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's like simple things there, because I mean some people, like for Employment Relations Authority, you're allowed lawyers in there, whereas disputes tribunal or tenancy tribunal, you're not allowed lawyers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that is
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, no, that is a difference. You're allowed lawyers when it comes to the Employment Relations Authority. And I mean, there's some very smart people in there. There'd be some interesting things. You do get injunctions, and the most interesting one was when NZ Bus got their indefinite lockout notice struck down by the employment court because they did not put an end date on the lockout notice. And so so Wellington for 2 days had no buses. And funny enough, the buses came back just in time for Anzac Day.
Is that funny?
Yeah, it's a few years ago now when this happened. This is when Next Capital had owned NZ Bus before they sold off to Kinetic.
All right. Yeah, no, I just thought it was interesting, the separate sort of sub branches of the judicial system just having a trend that seemed to go against. It seemed to favor the industry they're trying to protect the people against. Maybe there's something that bucks that trend. Maybe like tenancy tribunal. Maybe that's
it's interesting.
Waitangi tribunal.
Yeah, it's interesting with tenancy tribunal how it goes down a certain path, but the law doesn't necessarily stack up with that. That's just typically the people who challenge it. But I mean, half the reasons why people were not challenging it is because you couldn't anonymize yourself if you're a successful claimant. So you would be successfully won the case, and you'll have a black mark against your name, even that you didn't actually do anything wrong.
Anyway, I'm probably holding up your train of thought here. You probably want to move on, unless you want to. Do you want to address the super chat now?
Oh, we can get to Lord Alex of super chats. Yes. Opinion on the arsonist of the sovereign citizen / court. So the one who burnt down the cell phone tower in Wanaka.
I tell you what, if I was still living in Wanaka, I'd be pissed because I probably have my cell phone reception.
Well, I mean, what they're trying to be the fact is, it's the person, a sovereign citizen, typically tends to see themselves outside the law.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when they've got to function inside society, they struggle to actually function because they'll go, but I've got no authority of it. The best one I've heard of was a sovereign citizen sat there and said, I breached this claim against this section of the Constitution to a Canadian court. And the judge said, okay. Was it registrar? Yes. Are you able to find out these sections under the Constitution? The registrar came back and go, no, I can't because Canada is a constitutional monarchy with no written constitution.
And that's a part of the problem. All these people are talking cross-jurisdictionally, so a lot of the time they're wise.
A lot of people mention, say, the US First Amendment or US Second Amendment, and it's just we don't technically have that enshrined in our law.
My favorite one is the living man, though. He sits there. He point at the American flag and go, "That's the Jolly Roger. I do not recognize that. That is the Jolly Roger. That is a pirate flag. He's my favorite of the sovereign citizen. He's like the OC, going back. And he, I think his whole thing is your rebellious state from the Civil War, not the Civil War, the Revolutionary War back in 1776 or whatever, I think it was.
Sometime before New Zealand even had Treaty of Waitangi.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll put it simply: the McDonald's going to in Wanaka, that story angers me more than the cell phone guy. So that one got me. I was so pissed. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to spiral off a different path to how we do it. We're not going to get to the second, the next person speaks, which is Phil Twyford. We're going to take a quick dash to the Select Committee hearing, and we're going to see how things went in front of the Education and Workforce Select Committee.
So we're just going to watch Brooke. Is it just Brooke and
we'll start off with Brooke. And then we will get to, and then after Brooke, we will see what the New Zealand Law Society had to say.
Who's on the Select Committee?
3 National people, an ACT person, and 2 Labour and a Green.
That's fine. Just play. Just play. I asked too many questions.
And these are annoying Select Committees because they're not as easily line-upable as the main Parliament clips, but oh boy, they're fun to watch. Okay. Oh, that's helpful. So they spent 9 minutes like that.
Good morning, Minister. Thanks for joining us.
It's Goldstein's son from the ASB ads.
Oh, my goodness.
We've got 20 minutes with you this morning. If you'd like to take the opportunity to give us 15 minutes with you this morning. If you'd like to take the opportunity to give us some brief introductory remarks, and
Isn't
then we'll
this the guy
open
with
up
like
questions.
50 properties.
Fabulous.
Correct.
Firstly, thank you very much for having me here this morning. I hope you have a great time working through this bill. It is of huge interest, I know, to many New Zealanders. But I want to start, Mr. Chair, with why this bill is needed. This bill is about restoring confidence in our labour market. Businesses are facing growing uncertainty and rising costs due to complex employment regulations. That uncertainty discourages hiring, investment, and innovation, which ultimately locks New Zealand workers out of opportunities. My vision is quite simple: a more flexible, dynamic labour market that supports growth, jobs, and productivity. When businesses thrive, they hire more, pay better, and help lift living standards for all New Zealanders. The Employment Relations Amendment Bill helps to deliver on that vision. It rebalances the key parts of the system, reducing uncertainty and red tape for businesses, and maximises employment opportunities for workers. It will improve labour market outcomes across the spectrum, whether that be through more flexible contracting arrangements or more high-wage, high-impact roles to develop future business leaders.
Thank you.
Let me briefly outline why we are making the 4 practical changes specified in this bill. We are introducing a gateway test that creates an exclusion from the definition of employee and gives legal weight to the intention of contracting parties. This protects flexible work arrangements and supports modern business models, which will position New Zealand to adapt to the changing world of work. We are strengthening the accountability of employees.
Sorry, we're not
in the personal grievance system. The current remedies settings are imbalanced. Remedy reductions for contributory employee behaviour have been decreasing, and some employees are still receiving remedies despite engaging
cut
in
up, but
serious
did she say she
misconduct.
was strengthening it for employees?
Yeah. Well, as you can probably
Okay.
sit there and say, tearing it down. But I mean, but doesn't it seem like Dolores Umbridge does off Harry Potter?
It's
I'm
like
being kind while being cruel.
I don't know. It's like you're sitting there digging a hole, and you're like, "We're not digging this hole. We're filling it in. We swear we're filling it in." It's like, but you're clearly digging the hole.
So
No, we're
the
filling
Kiwi
it in.
workers want stability. That's why I'm offering them instability.
I think the fairer things are, the more efficient and effective things are. That's why I'm not going to support the pro-slavery bill. Thank you.
So this bill makes a suite of changes to address this imbalance, starting with the removal of eligibility to any remedies for employees who commit serious misconduct. We are introducing a $180,000 wage and salary threshold for unjustified dismissal personal grievance claims. We know that a poor performing manager or executive can have a big flow-on effect for a business. This change gives employers more confidence and flexibility to appoint and manage high-impact, high-earning employees, while still allowing parties to contract back into those provisions if they wish to. We are removing the 30-day rule. This rule prevents parties from being able to agree to bespoke terms that do not align with the applicable collective agreement in that workforce, which can include 90-day trials. By removing this rule, we are supporting the freedom of choice for parties to agree to bespoke terms and conditions and reducing red tape at the start of employment. And so in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, these reforms will help build a more dynamic labour market, one that creates jobs, lifts wages, and supports business growth. Happy to take questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Was there anything previously in that 30-day period that was preventing them from unsubscribing to those benefits?
Usually it would be the 90-day trial.
90-day trial.
90-day trial is not often in collective agreements, but here's something Brooke's got to realise.
No, I mean, like, she was making it seem like it was a hindrance to people who signed up and wanted just another agreement that wasn't that collective agreement. So was there anything preventing from someone who had just joined a job from not signing up, not going to that 30-day trial of that collective agreement? Was there anything stopping them not accepting it?
Some employers want to automatically put them onto individual agreements outside the generous collective.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah. Okay. back to you being grilled, Brooke.
What evidence have you got that this will do what you say it will do? You talked about it's going to improve the labour workforce and all those kind of things. What evidence have you guys done to indicate that this will do exactly that?
Well, there's a bit of basic economics in here, as well as evidence of talking to people who work within the labour market. We do know that if we have a modern workforce coming through who are dealing with constrained labour market settings, there are going to be fewer employment opportunities. So, for example, if people are feeling like there are contractions in the market, or they are feeling like it's harder to fire or get rid of somebody who is not working out for that company, they're going to be less inclined to take a chance on somebody new in the first place. That's just basics.
That's just basics. It is known. It is known.
This is the person this is the minister who has never ran a business, never probably signed a collective employment agreement, never filed a GST return. Probably has not been in a situation of a dispute, and has seemed to have landed herself in roles that ideally suit her beliefs that she managed to switch to in the first year at university.
She's saying it like she's some world-renowned fucking economist or something. It's like she's acting like Walter White or something. Like, it's just basic chemistry, Jesse. Just basic chemistry.
I mean, put it this way. It's sad to hear it. As you probably know, Catherine O'Hara died yesterday, I think it was.
2 days, I think.
2 days ago? Yeah.
Well, it's hard to tell American time.
Oh, exactly.
Their days are in between.
Moira from Schitt's Creek is more human than Brooke.
Oh, I never watched Schitt's Creek.
No. The character of Moira was like putting on a fake voice and everything that she wasn't human. Yeah.
She's like the alien in Mars Attacks that bit the guy's finger off.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear more from Dolores Umbridge.
I'm happy for Beth here from our employment relations team within MB to talk through the regulatory impact statement.
We go to Beth and then we'll go to Jan.
Sure. So we did 4 regulatory impact statements for each of the policies that are in this bill. They're all on MB's website. Happy to share a link with the committee for those. We found mixed evidence, but the key thing to indicate is we did talk to, on the contractors' work and the 2 personal grievance items, we did talk to a range of employee groups, lawyers, and heard things like the income threshold work. So that proposal, that already happens at the top end of employment. And so what this does is set some rules around how it works.
You said mixed evidence. Can you tell us the evidence which says that this is a good idea? I'm assuming that's part of the mix.
I think I probably couldn't accurately describe the nuances of that, so I'm happy to come back and talk to the committee about that.
Called out.
We'll do that.
I'm quite keen to know, to prosecute a bit more about who those employee groups are, and if they are making up both contractors and people that work under collective agreements, and the people that work within those thresholds or above those thresholds that you're talking about personal grievance.
About who we spoke to?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. Definitely the Council of Trade Unions, and I believe we talked to some other major unions as well.
Yes, I can help you out there. I've thankfully been provided a list. So it doesn't break down for the specific types of the policy areas, but I'll take it as the whole. But MB did engage with First Union, the Maritime Union of New Zealand, the New Zealand Council of Trade Unions, the Postal Workers Union, and Unite Union when formulating their advice to me.
Thanks, Mr. I've got to start from Mike.
Do you have a feeling that MB official feels like they're literally being asked to do something they feel so not comfortable with?
By the government, you mean?
Yeah. It's a bit like the Governor General a Māori Governor General having to sign an anti-treaty, anti-Māori law into it context.
Yeah, so I guess it's more they've just been given some paper thin fucking shield to hide behind. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to swear in your.
No, I don't care.
I'm not sure if you're allowed. Okay, I was just making sure. I didn't have the kitty filter on.
I don't know if Restream does that.
Just automatically bleeps.
Yeah, well, if it exists, it doesn't exist at mine. Yeah, let's see what the next question is from a select committee member.
All right, yeah, so
Chair,
big
just in
fail.
regard to the
That first
accountability of
question.
employees for bad behaviour. I guess it's premised on the fact that yes, not all employers are good employers, but not all employees are good employees. And in terms of, and I know people personally that have been reticent, had a bad experience with an employee. It's cost them a lot of money.
This is
and
like a national backbencher?
further grow their business.
Correct.
And invest in their business. So
Okay.
that would be a very real risk that I would see. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. When I've been talking to people involved in the business community, when formulating this idea, but also after the fact, going and talking to people in the community, they have said that it's actually quite difficult for us to get accurate statistics of how large this problem is for businesses, because there is such a fear of going to the Employment Relations Authority that people are settling their cases before they get to that point. So there are people holding on to money within their own businesses in case they need a settlement. If someone raises a personal grievance claim on the way out, which I would consider to be unproductive money, that could be used for the benefit of employees while they're doing their work or for R&D development. However, that's sitting aside. But there is also concern that if there is, for example, people with some emptiness on their CVs, or they have a particular record that's not 100% clean.
I don't know. That's risky. That's risky business
and business owners are
management
less
right
likely
there.
to take a chance because they are so fearful of the personal grievance settings for if something goes wrong on the other side of that employment agreement. And so in order for us to build business confidence so that people can hire with confidence, it makes sense to have a flexible labour market. So if things don't work out, they know that they can use those options. But at the moment, business owners don't feel like they have those options available.
Like a giant point of her argument there was basically saying they have the money set aside for a rainy day, essentially. What?
I don't like. Dolores must have never ran a small. Well, actually, no, she hasn't run a small business. I don't know how many employers have money set aside for personal grievances. I can see them having money set aside for the PAYE, to have for the GST, to keep their tax obligations out there.
Yeah.
I have never heard an employer in the 10 years I've been in business that had money set aside for personal grievances. And I mean, and some of these business owners are pretty smart, savvy people, and some of them I know do keep cash reserves on hand.
I don't know. I never owned a business, so I guess that's one side of it, that it just doesn't happen at all, I suppose. So
yeah, I mean, if I gave Alan Chambers a ring, he's probably the closest I can think of where I would actually get an honest answer out of him. He owns the French door factory in Rongotai. He's a progressive thinking business owner. He has been voting Labour for years. He believes in apprenticeships and all that. Even when the government sits there and guts it, he somehow still takes on apprentices, that sort of thing. He did tell me in the lead up to Christmas, he has to make sure there's about $50,000 worth of receipts sitting on side to keep the payroll going through for the, I think it's the 2-week or the 3-week shutdown between from around before Christmas to a week after New Year's. Mm-hmm. But he never had a personal grievance, and the whole time I've known him, I've never heard a personal grievance out of his business. I know one staff member kind of a bit complained, and I told him, well, you're actually getting a damn good wicket out of your boss. It's like, he goes, oh, he's like this. I go, wait a minute, aren't you meant to be apprentice? Yeah, how much are you getting paid per hour? He goes, that's living wage. He goes, you do know as an apprentice, you're entitled to be paid 20% below the minimum wage. And he was just like, what? It's actually interesting because I hear he no longer works in the business, but that's just one staff member. But yeah, I mean, this is a person who has typically, he has the 50% of his staff are still there that have been there for 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. That sort of thing there. And most of the people move on to bigger and better things. They're not being booted out for misconduct or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It also just shows their sort of financial attitude towards money not being invested in something, not being invested in the active economy or a business or something.
Put it this way, I wish I had a cash reserve for personal grievances. It would help me right at the moment.
Which they just did with the what was the fund for the disaster relief fund? I think we called it something like that.
Oh, yes, for the climate change fund, yes, for disaster.
Which basically the same concept. They just didn't do a whole bit of legislation, but they said money set aside for a wet rainy day. This could be getting spent.
Well, and
this
also
could be circulating the economy and earning money.
Todd McClay, I've seen this online. I have not had it verified by a news report, but for some reason he was the minister who declined it, and it was a resilience project that Gisborne District Council was prepared to put in $4.5 million for to make their region resilient, and it was declined by the minister for the government funding stepped in to sit there and make this happen. And that happened 2 weeks before was it 2 weekends ago when we had the floods and the extreme weathers. Like literally, it was something like beginning of the year it got its decline, and 2 weeks later, literally an event in the area that has literally cut off the region. Like if you want to get from Auckland to Gisborne at the moment, you've got to go via Napier. But hey, 3 years ago, if you wanted to get from Wellington to Gisborne, you had to go via Rotorua and Apotiki. So, you know, what difference has it changed? Oh, and you're still going to go over an Arco Bridge across the through Devil's Elbow, which was put in from Cyclone Gabrielle.
An Arco Bridge?
You've heard of a Bailey Bridge?
Mm-hmm.
So a Bailey Bridge is a short-term temporary bridge structure to reopen a road in the event of a natural disaster. An Arco Bridge is a long-term temporary structure bridge to sit there and fit in. So the decision that has been made for Devil's Elbow is to eliminate the road, and it's been put through fast track for a new road to go through that won't be affected by disaster. However, the existing road, the Arco Bridge, is going to stay in the place of the washed-out bridge for the remainder of the life of this old road that will soon be mothballed upon opening of the new road. Yeah.
Should we pace on?
Yeah.
For the committee, I'm just going to give you a sense of what's going on. Parmjit, then Jan, and then Chana.
Yeah, can you tell us what have you been hearing out there about the importance of differentiating between employees and contractors? Because one of the basis in this. Oh, sorry. Is this working? Should be working.
But it doesn't.
That's one of the other questions, right? That's she's act,
Yeah.
right?
So just want to understand from you, what have you been hearing out there about the importance of differentiating between employees and contractors? Because one of the changes in this bill is to kind of clearly differentiate between the two, as it says that at the moment the line is kind of blurred. So just want to understand a bit more what this concern is and what is the reason behind it.
Yeah, so we do know that we are moving to a modern world of work where we have, digital platform work, people involving in contract arrangements on digital platforms, where there could be grey areas for some business owners to know whether or not the people that they are hiring or using across those platforms are employees versus they are contractors. And there are different rights and entitlements to both of those arrangements. Of course, employees receive sick leave and holiday pay, whereas a contractor, that's part of their overall pay package. And there is no, set in stone employment relationship. We know that, or at least I believe, that this area of work is only going to increase over time as more and more people.
I think while she's buffering, we can get commentary.
Well, so far, all I've heard her basically, to sum up, is work's becoming more modern and there's grey areas. And that was it. She didn't really go too specific
what do you expect
beyond that.
when you've got a patsy from Parmjit Palmer?
Yeah.
I mean,
she's Act 2, correct?
Sorry?
She's Act 2, correct?
Yes. Used to be a national MP based in Mount Roskill and is now an acting MP who stood for the seat of Papakura at the last general election.
Okay.
Yeah. The one who inquired about whether Te Pāti Māori MP should be put in prison for performing the haka.
Yes. Yeah. That's how I know her. And I just keep ping-ponging in my head. I was like, is she national or she Act? But I guess that's...
Yeah, no, she's currently Act, but she used to be national. Yeah, I know. How interesting. Yeah. Okay, let's see how Brooke responds.
Use digital platforms. We do know and hear that there is a sense of uncertainty of whether or not the employee
This
and
uncertainty
contractor,
in the grey area
delineation is clear
Okay.
enough. And so that's what this aims to achieve.
It's not
is
clear
giving,
in the
more
uncertainty in this
clarity to
grey
the overall
area.
system
We need
so that more
clarity in the
people are able to
uncertainty in this
engage
grey
in different
area
areas
that
of
we're
work,
unsure about.
knowing from the
What
outset
the
what the intention
What are
from
you
both sides is.
saying?
Because sometimes it doesn't seem clear to people. You might end
Oh
up with some
my
instance
God!
of the person doing the hiring or being part of the
It feels
contract.
like you're doing a
payment
Hassai
feels
fight
certain
here.
that they are
Unclear.
working with contractors. But on the other side,
You're
there can be
right,
some
Brooke, it's
uncertainty.
not
So this is
clear.
to
What do
clear
you
that
want
up and
about?
ensure that for all contracting relationships going forward, everybody is very clear from the start
Oh my-
what they are actually signing up to. And one of the things that I would ask the committee to do during the select committee process is to consider whether the gateway test is sufficient, whether it goes far enough, or whether in fact it is actually too narrow for digital platform work. I want to ensure that we are getting that boundary for the gateway test correct, but also that I have not defined it so narrow that there are genuine contract arrangements that wouldn't necessarily fit into the criteria that's been set out so far.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
really good
There's
to
a
know.
quick stop.
Okay, that last bit was actually something. She wanted to narrow the boundaries, but not narrow the boundaries of what digital platform work, was it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, I don't know what she's trying to achieve.
I don't know what she's trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. It's a rock and a hard place. Like, what is she trying to achieve?
It was just the most ironic ramble I've ever heard. Just, I'm going to be very clear about this. But you're not clear on a single thing.
Yeah. Let's see what else let's see what else she gets asked.
I'm just a bit concerned that there's potential for the medical workforce industry to be caught up in your definition of employees versus contractors. Most GP practices don't employ but contract for GP services for people who are not owners of the businesses. And under your definitions, they would fall into that because of the hours of work that they operate, which is not, everybody works within those hours. It's not just the people who are contracted. So I'm just wondering, have you had any thought to that, or is there any way of an exemption? It's not covering a whole industry as the whole previous things would have, but it's going to catch them.
No, that makes sense. So this is for the $180,000 threshold. Look, I did consider whether or not it would be easier or more simple to list different types of jobs or different types of job titles to be captured. I was not in favour of that particular type of model, given that I believe it makes it quite difficult.
I think you may misunderstand me.
Oh,
I don't mean the threshold for the 180-degree threshold for PGs. I mean that the definitions that you have for employers versus and having that gateway test would capture the medical employed or contractor workforce would be captured into that, and potentially could cause quite a lot of problematic situations across our healthcare system. Had you had any advice or consideration about that?
Look, I haven't had advice on that specific workforce when it comes to whether or not they would be considered an employee or a contractor.
Under this,
however, I'm interested in whether or not you'd like to flesh that out during the committee.
We will.
I think one of the things that needs to be made clear, though, is that this is for a test to be used with the Employment Relations Authority. This is not a definitive way of listing people in and out of different arrangements. At the moment, we have common law test or the intention test. We are essentially setting out a gateway test that the ERA could be used if those boundaries and definitions are to be challenged. And that would end up with the ERA making determinations of whether somebody is considered an employee versus a contractor.
It's amazing how she heard a particular question that wasn't being asked.
That just seems to be a common strategy from these guys, you know. Again, what did she say?
About was it employee classifications?
Yeah, I kind of just zoned out on her answer to that one.
Yeah, it feels just like she's like
more platitudes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's see if there's a little bit more savageness around. think we're just going to get annoyed with hearing more about from Brooke, and Brooke,
even the player it doesn't want to play her, you know.
Oh, it's it's what's it called? This one doesn't quite like to work on faster speed. Yeah, like it's at 1.25, and it's sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. But you got to like kind of like push to kind of like start the building. And the thing is, it downloads at a certain rate, but if you're watching at speed, it doesn't download it as it doesn't download at your fastest speed. Okay, let's hear from the Law Society. Was it Kahui Te was it Turu Aotearoa? We've got Scott Fletcher and Simon Graham.
Thanks for joining us this morning. We've got 10 minutes with yourself and Simon, including any time for questions. Apologies that we're running a few minutes behind, and we'll kick into it.
Thank you very much. Tēnā koutou. As I've been introduced, my name is Scott. I sit on the Law Society's Public Law Committee. With me is Simon, who's the chair of our Immigration and Refugee Law Committee. And obviously we're appearing today on behalf of the Law Society. I suspect the committee is well used to this by now, but our written submission is very much focused on the Law Society's role. We talk about legal issues, not policy issues. Obviously that can be a bit fine at the margin sometimes, but our real focus is on particular concerns around, generally speaking, human rights, international obligations, and the rule of law. Our submissions tend to be, certainly in my experience, quite technical sometimes. I think it's helpful for the committee that we just focus on one or two key concerns in our oral submission, because I am conscious of your time. So Simon and I have divided things up, and the two things we're going to talk about orally are, I'm going to talk to you about special directions, which is section 3 of the written submission, looking at clauses 7 to 11 and then 15 of the bill. And then Simon is going to talk to you about deportation liability for residence visa class holders. And that's section 5 of our submission. We agree as the Law Society, and we've said this in several previous submissions, that it is a good thing that officials in Parliament are moving towards creating legislation that gives a bit more flexibility to deal with exceptional circumstances. And that's how we interpret these new clauses around special directions. They're intended to give some flexibility. And we've said in the past, partly in the post-COVID-19 landscape, that you probably all know this, but there was a lot of rushed legislation that had to be dealt with in order to respond to gaps in existing legislation. So we support the policy intent to that extent. I also want to acknowledge up front that we're impressed by both the basic flexibility of the powers and some of the safeguards that have been drafted by officials, but the Law Society does see its role to emphasize the importance of striking a balance when you are giving those kinds of exceptional, departing from baseline rules and usual assumptions and regulations and legislation. And in particular, we do think these provisions need some more work. And the two things that I want to talk about in terms of what I'm saying orally, we've given a list of proposed suggestions right at the end of our section 3 of the submission. The first thing is about the way in which the minister who issues these variations is entitled to issue them. And we think it's more consistent with general drafting practice and good balance striking to change that idea of satisfied to what we've suggested is reasonably necessary. And that's a criteria that you'll see quite often in situations where ministers are given powers to depart from legislation or from existing regulations. For example, that was used in the Christchurch earthquake legislation a few governments ago. And we think that strikes a better balance by ensuring that there is still some executive flexibility, but also recognizing that when you're changing laws, not quite on the hoof, but necessarily at speed, there needs to be a little bit more care about the way in which that's done. The other key concern that I wanted to raise orally is that the way that the particular exceptions have been drafted seems to us to be a bit of a mismatch between the policy problem that has been identified. You will see in the written submission that we've talked about the example given in the drafting is things outside of the department's control. Of course, if Parliament decides to give less funding to the department, that is outside of its control, but we don't really think that's the kind of thing that officials intended or that Parliament would intend to give that much flexibility to the minister. So it does seem to us that maybe those criteria need to be reworked and tightened a little bit, because they give a lot wider scope to change the rules than I think perhaps was entirely intended. That's all I wanted to say orally about that, because I'm conscious Simon has a bit to say about residence class visas. So I'll hand over to him now, and we should have some time for questions at the end if I've timed myself right.
So just before we head on for the next section, that doesn't sound pretty positive, what's just been said about the bill.
Yeah, like the latter particularly stood out. The minister having perhaps more power than intended. Again, seems to be a trend through particularly axe legislation.
Yeah, they seem to be, I know best because I'm the minister.
Like the RSB appointing the... I don't recall who was going to be in charge of essentially appointing the board.
I think it was the minister.
Yeah, I don't remember which minister though.
David Seymour.
Yeah, it was David Seymour, but what is he? Minister of
Regulation would be the one that would be appointed of his various different titles, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because David Seymour has so many associate ministerial things underneath him. I mean, you might as well just call him the minister of everything.
Yeah, and again, the criticism there was too much potential overreach or power from this one minister, essentially. Same sort of thing, I suppose you could say, with the fast track as well in some ways, but that's 3 people, not 1.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
I forget what the first part was about. Boost my memory? I forgot.
Yeah. So we will get to the second part.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. I'm going to deal briefly with the discrete provisions under Clause 18 of the proposed bill, which address deportation liability for resident visa holders. If I can say at the outset, if there's any questions, just feel free to interject straight away. There's quite a lot to this topic. I'm not going to get through it all, but in very brief terms, if the committee is familiar with the current provisions under Section 161, as they currently stand in terms of deportation liability notice for resident visa holders, you'll notice a prescribed criterion built into the system, which takes into account a proportionate response to the level of offending and the time period in which a visa was granted. So at the lower end, a person may be liable for deportation for offences committed where the court has the power of 3 months or more to impose a term of imprisonment within that 2-year period of the granted visa. For more serious, where the court has the power to impose imprisonment of 2 years within 5 years of the granted visa. And for the more serious, where the court has the power to imprison a person for 5 years within 10 years of the grant of the visa. The analogous provisions under Part 6 of the Act relating to temporary visa holders is 157. It's slightly broader, it doesn't have the same constraints or prescribed assessment criteria as the resident visa holders, in that it allows for any type of offending, for example, to occur at any period of time, and it categorizes the broad spectrum of issues which can capture liability for deportation under what's referred to as sufficient reasons, and that also captures criminal offending and character issues. The proposed amendment, as it currently stands, seeks to now incorporate or capture, by operation of law, deportation liability where a person pleads guilty or is found guilty and or conviction is entered. No difficulty with the conviction being entered. It's the prior 2 points, the entering a guilty plea or being found guilty, which potentially causes all sorts of significant ramifications for resident visa holders and creates an imbalance in terms of their ability to resolve their immigration status if found guilty, if the proposed amendment under 161 is triggered. The logic behind the amendment seems to be that there is sufficient provisions under the Immigration Act, under Section 206, the humanitarian appeal option, to deal with the proposed amendments. But however, there's some logical flaws in that assessment. Currently, the courts dealing with criminal offenders have a prescribed mechanism for dealing with offending under Section 106 of the Sentencing Act. That deals with the court's ability to look at an offender's culpability on the one hand, and balance that out against, in this instance, the consequences being immigration consequences. That's quite broad and allows for a full spectrum of factors to be considered in each individual person's circumstances. It also allows for that process to take account of the level of offending, the nature of the offending, and the consequences all in one sitting. As it currently stands, if a person satisfies that well-tested system, a conviction is not entered and liability does not arise automatically, and that's the end of the matter for the person who is a resident visa holder. The logic supporting this amendment is that the 206 humanitarian appeal mechanism effectively provides that similar safety net, but that's exactly not the case. The Section 206 assessment is focused on exceptional humanitarian circumstances. It's a sequential test. The first part doesn't have the opportunity to look at the level of offending, for example. The person is required to establish that they have exceptional circumstances. And by way of illustration, we provide an example of a case where a person could be living in New Zealand for 5 or 6 years, just granted residence, have no children, maybe have professional qualifications in New Zealand, a professional job, and no other attachments to New Zealand, but could find themselves liable for deportation and potentially deportation for trivial offending in the nature of strict liability, traffic offending, reckless driving, or something under the Summary Offences Act for disorderly conduct, for example. The ingredients for a humanitarian appeal usually require elements of family unity, the best interests of the child. Those type of elements and those factors are quite strong in those types of arguments. It's only when a person is satisfied that test may they go into the second and third part, which deals with an assessment of the level of offending in terms of the person, and thirdly, the public interest criteria in level 3. So quite different, and therefore by incorporating these new provisions, the proposal effectively takes away a system which is well established in the criminal courts. And just recently, the Supreme Court has provided very clear guidance to the court and the criminal bench in terms of the implication of how to proceed with matters of this nature.
Simon, thank you very much for that. Thank you, Scott.
Wow.
Were you expecting that to be part of the Employment Amendment Bill?
No.
To talk about immigration law?
He's concerned about deportation.
Well, it would be, especially considering
that's what I took.
An ERA point doesn't quite have the same burden of proof as, say, a criminal offence. Yeah.
So, in summary, how the hell does this employee amendment bill affect deportation?
I don't know. Could was it if your visa is tied to your employer?
Mm-hmm.
That would be.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably most of the people I know actually, who are here on visas.
Yeah. Actually, this is an interesting one. I actually had with one job I used to work with. Mm-hmm. We had one particular. Was it manager who was on a work visa?
Okay.
And he was Indian, and he was from India. He threatened a New Zealand-born Indian, New Zealand citizen by birth with deportation to India if he didn't sit there and do something that was illegal. You can guess who sat there and quit their job. And I think the giveaway side would be is the New Zealand-born one had a Kiwi accent. He just had a full-on Indian first name and last name.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a New Zealand accent. So if you basically spoke to him on the phone, you wouldn't even think he was Indian. That sort of thing. But it was amazing how an Indian was an Indian manager on a work visa threatened a New Zealand-born Indian with deportation to India, even that he has a New Zealand passport, New Zealand citizen by birth.
So, in all that spiel that he gave us, did he actually give us an example of the amendment? Which section of the amendment is actually
the humanitarian grounds? So, in order to be
Okay.
classed for humanitarian grounds, you'd have to have some connection to keep you in New Zealand. So, a good example would be what would be considered as children,
Mhm.
a partner of the country of citizenship. Whereas you could be in a situation where you might get yourself fully established before you'd sit down there and start a relationship or have a partner. I mean, I do know a couple of people who are in the boat of they didn't really start looking at like a full-on relationship with kids and all that until they were granted residency. Or if they had, say, like an arranged marriage. Like I had a colleague who used to work with BPQ, and boy, arranged marriage, he got a smoking hot wife out of it. He did not look at the process of bringing her over until he was granted New Zealand permanent residency.
Okay.
So he could be waiting for that process to happen to get that process. I do know that 12 months before, it was after he got given residency, he went for a trip to India. They went and applied for the marriage license, got the process and set date for the wedding, which was set for 12 months in the future, and started that process. But he didn't start any of that process until that was done. And when she first came to New Zealand, she came on a partnership visa that couldn't work. After 3 months, she was allowed to work, and she had to go through the whole thing. I think she had New Zealand. She had New Zealand residency by the time their first child was born. But while this was also happening, until she got permanent residency, they didn't have kids. They didn't have kids until she got permanent residency. So, and I think by the time they had their first child, he had citizenship. But just like the little things that drag on, but like the things that keep your anchor in the country dragged on because they don't. Do you want to sit there and get something sorted until you got everything all lined up?
Mm-hmm.
It's and it's not as fast as it used to be. Like one of the stallholders, Jim at Newtown Market, he came from China to New Zealand. He came in 1987. I was born in 1990. He was a New Zealand citizen before I was born. But you wouldn't think that if you met him.
Yeah. No,
you wouldn't think that because his English is broken and all.
Kiwi, yeah.
Yeah, his English is broken and also. The only thing that will give it away is the fact that him and his wife count in English when they do the money thing counting there, and the fact that they gave all their kids English first names.
You will find generations of families here who are Chinese, who are like more or less completely Chinese. They've been married in the Chinese community, but they go back like 4 or 5 generations when they immigrated from China.
Councillor Ray Chung of Wellington City Council is third generation of what you've just described.
There you go.
Yeah, third generation of what you described. He, however, is of the generation where all the kids learned English, but all the kids went to Chinese language school. Like he was speaking English before he spoke Chinese, because he was like number 8 of 9 kids who all spoke English.
Yeah, I don't know much about the history of Chinese immigration, sort of North Island. South Island, it's gold rush area.
Gold rush, yeah. In this part of the country, it's horticulture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the guy who runs the Newtown Market is Damien Young. His father left China during the Civil War and settled in Otaki along with his parents. He left there at 16 and settled for a life in New Zealand. And he he was market gardener for all his life. Until he retired in his 70s, and then he started the Newtown Market. He got up to, he didn't quite get to 90, but he got up there. But yeah, that was what it is. But like there is the Stephens of the world who like were engraced in society, including had a very good working relationship with Annie King, and then you got those who end up in isolation. That their version of their Chinese language sat still while in China it evolved. Like there's a group of people I know in Auckland who are stuck on a 1950s, 60s version of Cantonese that is no longer spoken now because in China it's evolved, but in New Zealand they weren't part of that Chinese community in China that evolved. So they're in this style of Cantonese that is like completely obsolete now. Yeah, it's
the Japanese using kanji, or I'm sure there's probably
I know Helen, Greg's wife, knows that style of it, but she said it's something that, like she's literally on the cusp of where it changed. Yeah, so she learnt the newer version, but she still knew the old words and the old slang that landed with it. Yeah. Yeah, it was very funny trying to sit there and go, hi, shake hands. It's all the part that it was the only thing I could do with this lady was that, it's everyone in the house that, because they had homestay students who couldn't sit there and do that. Yeah. Let's get back to some real stuff. Questions. I want to find out what the Law Society was asked.
Actually, just one thing. Do you think that's an oversight, intentional oversight, or do you think it's actually baked into the law? Do you think that's intentional?
About the deportation.
Yeah, deportation. Do you think that's
it's baked into other legislation, and it kind of cross paths it. And I feel that from what was being described there, it sounds like the burden of proof to challenge things is being lowered or made difficult. So if you end up in a situation where the burden of proof is low, which for a citizen wouldn't make any damn difference because we can get the dole, but as on a visa, your chance to natural justice has been eroded.
I see. Yeah. No.
And it's something. If your chance to natural justice or get the right actions, it can be completely eroded.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay.
That really uses all the time we have available this morning. But appreciate you going through that in some detail for us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, well, but bloody hell, they never got any questions in that one. Yeah, there's also, I wonder if I'm just looking at the list right now. There's another law, there's the Law Association of New Zealand at a later stage in it, but I think there's one that's Pirarako Tribal Authority. Actually, that could be quite an interesting one to actually go with, because they're Māori.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you think's going to be most interesting, man. Go with that.
Appreciate you being here. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks.
That's not Carl Bates.
No, that's Vanessa Wienick.
Julie Shepherd, next slide. Julie is joining us via Zoom. You can turn on your camera and your microphone so we can hear you and see you, Julie.
Yes, Cal probably needs to go to the toilet or something.
Via Zoom.
Choose Julie.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Julie. Welcome to the committee. We have 5 minutes with you, including time for questions. Go ahead and give us your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Just checking that you can hear me okay.
Yes, great. Go ahead.
Tēnā koutou katoa, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Julie Shepherd. I am the replacement for Mr. Jason Aku, who became unavailable. I'm presenting this oral submission on behalf of Pirarako Tribal Authority, and we stand in opposition to the Immigration, Fiscal, Sustainability and System Integrity Amendment.
I can tell
Bill
by
as it
her
is currently
screensaver
written.
she needs to update her
Our
computer.
opposition is grounded in 3 core reasons.
By the sounds of it, this seems to be they're looking at 2 different acts here.
So we're not on the same legislation?
Yeah. I don't know, that's interesting. Yeah, it's annoying these select committees because they don't seem to sit there and get through there. Like, this seems to be on a different set of legislation to what was before.
I was distracted by her screensaver anyway. She has the old bubble screensaver from, I think.
I remember that, yeah.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because
it's very out of date.
Yeah, because it does state in here the submitters is the Employment Relations Amendment Bill, and she's just mentioned immigration. So I don't know if this is a hearing that is crossing over 2 different sections. Yeah, I wonder. This is what happens when things go a bit off kilter. Let's see. Gee, I love it when you've got to sit there and try to redo things live.
You need
When
intermission.
you would sit there and practice to get things done in advance. It's
Give me a show tune. Little Mermaid. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything?
okay. There seems to be there's one that mentions it's about workers and criminal offences. Should we just go back to the second reading speeches? We go that will just be so much simpler. Yeah, this is what happens when they mix these select committees together. When they do bills together.
That the motion be agreed to. Honourable Phil Twyford.
Remarks thanked the Education and Workforce Committee for its work and its decision to endorse the bill and make a number of propose a number of amendments. I want to make it very clear to everybody that's not in the House today but listening on the radio or online to this debate that it was only the members on that committee from the governing parties who voted to support this bill. The rest of us know this bill is an absolute dog, and no amount of soothing tones by the minister, some sort of clinical neutrality, this is all about efficiency, it's about the agility to sack workers. None of this nonsense language can cover up the fact that this is simply a right-wing ideological attack on the rights of working people in this country. And the Labour Party, and we'll hear from Green Party colleagues shortly, we are absolutely implacably opposed to this bill because it is taking New Zealand backwards. Now, Madam Speaker, hordes of young New Zealanders are voting with their feet and going to Perth, to Brisbane, the Gold Coast and numerous other places to get away from the sickening economic malaise caused by Nicola Willis and Christopher Luxon's economic management, their failed economic management. To get away from expensive housing, high unemployment and low wages. This bill does nothing to address those problems. It offers those young, skilled and bright New Zealanders who are leaving this country, it gives them no hope. It does nothing for the failing public health system. It does nothing to reduce homelessness or improve the situation for first home buyers. It does nothing to offer meaningful, decent work for New Zealanders. It actually does the opposite. It makes life more precarious for New Zealand workers. And by tilting the playing field away from New Zealand workers towards employers, it will undoubtedly depress wages further. It is exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. This bill is very important because it is about jobs. Low pay and insecure work are a curse on this country. Governments of all stripes, we spend all our time and money fixing up the social problems caused by insecure work, low pay and unemployment right now. And this bill actually makes those things worse for most New Zealanders. And it's very important for people to understand that both sides of this parliament clearly understand and know that the employment relationship is at its heart unequal. The very nature of it, and this is enshrined in the Employment Relations Act, it is based on a power imbalance. Employers have more power than workers. Hello. Both parties in this, both the major parties and both sides of this House understand that. The difference is that on our side of the House, we seek to redress that balance, to protect the weaker parties, to give them more rights. And what does the National Party and the ACT Party and New Zealand First do? And actually, I would ask New Zealand First colleagues in the House.
On it.
Oh, my mic's up about here.
Oh, I was hearing like maybe it was in the stream.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Think about that today. A party that increasingly parades itself around as a friend of the New Zealand working class. As far as I know, they are voting for this bill, which strips New Zealand workers of their rights and protections in the workplace. That side of the House consistently, every time they bring a bill to this House that deals with matters of employment law and rights at work, they take rights away from New Zealand workers. The Minister has couched her justifications in the language of balance and certainty. But, Madam Speaker, the Employment Relations Act that this bill is amending is based on the idea of balance and the inherent imbalance of power, something that successive New Zealand governments for 25 years have recognised and supported. But this bill throws that commitment out the window. And as for certainty, the only certainty, the Minister talked about certainty in his speech, the only certainty that this bill delivers is that it gives employers the certainty that they can ride roughshod over the rights of employees and they will not be held to account for it. There are 3 key points that I want to talk about that are in the bill. One is the erosion of the personal grievance system, which lies at the heart of the state's interaction with employers and employees. The right to take a personal grievance and have it heard, to have it mediated or a solution negotiated. Not content, this Minister, with stacking the Employment Relations Authority with people that she brazenly describes as pro-business, getting rid of people on the Employment Relations Authority who adjudicate over personal grievance cases, getting rid of them and deliberately and openly stacking the ERA with her own appointments who she says are more pro-business. And I say to the members on that side of the House, take this as a warning. If you gut our public institutions in that way, that have been based for decades on the idea of a carefully negotiated balance, if you gut those, you not only take away public confidence in those institutions, but you invite future governments to do the same thing. You will not be in power forever. In fact, after this year, you probably won't be in power for very long. So in the education system, in industrial relations... Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Think very carefully about the way that you gut public confidence and the balance that underpins institutions like the Employment Relations Authority. But not content with that, this Minister is gutting the law of personal grievance. And so, Madam Speaker, the Minister didn't mention this in his speech, but this bill removes the reinstatement or compensation as potential remedies if an employee has contributed in any way to the problem being considered. And what that will undoubtedly mean, because we all know in any conflict in the workplace or elsewhere, there's always 2 sides to every story. This very likely means that those remedies will no longer be a feature of the personal grievance system. There will no longer be compensation and reinstatement. And that will make a mockery of the system. It hollows it out, and it will make it no longer a meaningful way for New Zealand workers to get redress for injustice or for conflicts in the workplace to be solved in a way that is fair and meaningful. The second provision in the bill I want to talk about is the entrenching of vulnerability of workers who have been deemed to be contractors. This bill is Minister Van Velden's way to give the middle finger to the Court of Appeal, and what they found in the Uber drivers' case was that those Uber drivers were, under New Zealand law, found to be employees. And in future, because of this law that's being passed through this Parliament, workers like the Uber drivers will not have the ability that all workers in New Zealand have had for a very long time to go to the court and ask for it to be resolved whether they are in fact employees, whether the real nature of the relationship is one of employment or whether they are in fact contractors. She is taking, and the government parties are taking that right away from workers. And I want to do a shout out for Mioli Kyle and all of the Uber drivers and the union movement, including First Union, who have waged such a great campaign in defence of those workers. They are part of a global movement that are standing up for the rights of gig workers, of platform workers. And the provisions in this bill, which put in place the so-called gateway test, which is in fact, as the CTU noted in their submission to the Select Committee, not a gateway, it's a trapdoor, because it will effectively stop workers from going to the next step and having the real nature of their relationship tested by the court, because they can be deemed a specified contractor just by putting a label on it. Yes, there are other criteria, but it will make it much, much easier for employers to say, no, I believe this person's a contractor and they will be treated as one.
It's basically Hobbit laws again, like when they completely union crushed.
Oh, I mean, yeah, and also historically Pizza Hut used to do this where they put their drivers on contracted rates. So their drivers were contracted, and I remember when the delivery rate was $5 a delivery, and that's all you got paid for delivery. So if you had no deliveries that night, you got no pay.
Yeah.
And that's and like it has to sit there and come to like a situation of at which point do you consider that you're an employee versus a contractor? You know, and that's where it becomes a slippery line.
I mean, it's so disgustingly like, I mean, like almost nakedly overt to try and it seems to appease Uber, because I don't know what the status of the appeals are. They probably still have to go.
The Uber drivers won in the Supreme Court.
Oh, they won a Supreme Court? Okay.
Yeah. No. This law, literally.
Okay.
This law, literally.
This seems specifically designed to try and overturn that appeal, but maybe they were just too slow getting it through. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. No, the law. Yeah, no. It's basically a middle finger to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from maybe a technical position, maybe Uber could somehow disestablish, make a subsidiary where that ruling no longer applies or some shit.
Yeah, well, see, that they could literally do that. I mean, that was also like it's a different piece of legislation, but the same thing.
Maybe they can do another kind of appeal because the laws change.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, once it's hit the Supreme Court, it's set a standard for the ERA and the High Court and the Court of Appeal to follow.
Yeah.
Now, under the Crime Theft by Employer Amendment Bill, slightly different, but it covers the same thing. It basically gets around people setting up separate, like, this is the way that Taylor now put it out. Now, Taylor is a New Zealand first contact of mine.
Mm-hmm.
You create a company called Employee Exploit Worker Limited 1.0. You exploit workers. You sit there and do that. You get caught out. You get your caught red-handed in the cookie jar. You sit down there, you liquidate the company, you start up a new company called Exploiting Workers 2.0. And, you've got a clean record. You can do it again and do exactly the same shit time and time again. And that was something that he absolutely hated. And he said this is something that Ibrahim Omar pointed out because they both stood against each other in Wellington Central, along with standing out against Tamitha Paul. I think a guy called Scott Sheeran, I think it is, or something, some national guy that you never heard of and never really dealt with. And was it Natalia Albert? And that was something that was brought up about why he went into that particular bill. Because people would sit down there and shut down their caught-out legal limited liability companies and set up new ones and just keep doing the same shit time and time again. So, and what you mentioned there is something that could be attempted to be done, but because they've been landed in the New Zealand Supreme Court, it has kind of like, it set anything in that field is kind of, has been determined to be, an employee, if you're effectively the sole provider of the income. Now, when it comes to tax purposes, the threshold used to be about 80%, but it got lined up down to 60%, is that if your invoice comes from the same place, you may not be able to sit down there and funnel the money for a limited liability company to avoid high tax brackets. Now, that typically the people who usually would do that would be doctors, whose salaries would be over like $30,000, $40,000. Was it $400,000 a year? So they would funnel their income for a trust or something that would attract a lower tax rate. But the IRD have said that if 60% of your income comes from the same source, then that income could not be treated. That could be treated against a progressive tax rate system, not necessarily the company or the trust tax rate system. So there is that aspect as well. So that's another thing that's come in.
Should we keep going?
Yeah. Tiana Tuiono.
Yeah, fucking keep Phil, please. I want.
I know he's become a firehouse back in opposition. Like, put it this way, he was one of those MPs I sat there and said should have sat there and hung up his chains and retired. And now I'm not saying that now.
Well, he's got passion and he's got substance.
I think he's got over the hurdle that kind of like made him feel so like hidden at the back during the last term in Parliament, because I think his wife had cancer diagnosis, so his fight kind of was fight in a different area. Maybe, but yeah, we now got back to the Phil we know.
All right.
Yeah.
Tiano Tuiono.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There was a lot that I agree with from the previous speaker, nothing from the first speaker. However, he did call it a dog of a bill, Madam Speaker, and I couldn't help but think that was an insult to dogs. An insult to dogs. I mean, this bill is worse
Worse than that, Madam Speaker, this bill is just another rubbish bill from a government with an anti-worker agenda, and I know that colleagues on this side of the House can't wait to vote that lot out to chuck this into the tip. Madam Speaker, I think it's really important for us to really think about this legislation in the context of all the reforms that have been taking place at pace. There's been an avalanche of anti-worker legislation coming over from that side, all part of the National Party and ACT Party coalition agreement. I think there are some people on that side that regret that coalition agreement, because how many of these bills have come through the House where that side have had to swallow a whole lot of dead rats? I think about it in the context of the cancelling of the fair pay agreements. I think about the context of the pay equity claims, and I joined with many colleagues out on the steps when we found out that they were cancelling 33 pay equity claims for the country's poorest wahine woman workers primarily. Were brought in making it harder to do partial strikes. They've done that as well. So much anti-worker legislation has come through this House because of that agreement. And the result of that is we have a record number of people getting on a plane and going overseas. Our young people are getting on a plane and going overseas in the tens of thousands because of the way that this government is treating their jobs, Madam Speaker. The thing, though, is if you want to get what I have learnt over the last 2 years is that if you want to get something for the workers through, you've actually got to go around Brook Van Velden. You've got to go around Brook Van Velden, Madam Speaker. So I would like to acknowledge today that the work of Greg Fleming and Camilla Bellich, actually, to get modern slavery legislation on the floor, actually supported by the National Party by the looks of it. Finally, a way to get around Brook Van Velden to get some actual workers legislation that the House could actually support. And she did mention in her speech that the committee supported the changes of her bill, but what she neglected to say that it was just the government parties. And I often lament and worry about National Party colleagues on that side of the House having to running around to the ACT Party tunes to do what they want to do, because some of them actually try to do what's right. They tinker around with these bills to try to make them better for the workers. That's the sense I get from some of the government MPs on that. However, the foundations of this bill are rotten. The foundations of this bill are terrible, and that's why we will be opposing this bill. Madam Speaker, there were around 3,590 submissions in total that the Select Committee received. But here's the thing, only 1% of the people that submitted supported the bill. Overwhelmingly opposition to the bill. That's how bad this bill is, Madam Speaker. And there was a bit there that was said about the mucking around with the personal grievance system, a system that has been in place for years, a system which gives people a fair shot. If you're not being treated well at work, then you can put in a personal grievance and have that sorted out. Well, she wants to get rid of that. She wants to muck around with that and make it more and more difficult for people to get a resolution. And also, I support what is also being said about the Uber drivers as well. And the thing about the Uber drivers is this: they won every single time in the courts. They won in the Court of Appeal. They won in the Supreme Court. And now we have amendments in this bill which will make it harder for them to get their workers' rights. And they say, well, actually, we're not blocking access. Well, actually, they are. They've got this thing called the gateway test. The gateway test. So in order for you to be able to access the courts to actually get your classification clarified, you've actually got to jump through another hoop, a harder hoop, Madam Speaker. So what this does, it makes gig economy workers even more vulnerable. And this is something that we should be championing as a House. We should be backing the workers. We should be backing the workers. And I hope our colleagues in the New Zealand First Party are listening, because they were making a lot of noises at the end of last year saying that they were listening to the workers. Maybe they've been too distracted trying to make America great again and have forgotten about what makes New Zealand first, and that is about backing the workers, Madam Speaker. So I would encourage the workers, and I would encourage the unions as well. If you want to flip this bill, you might want to give them a call and see if that will work, because this bill is outrageous and it's egregious. And we have so many of our workers going overseas as well. So big shout out to the Uber drivers who took this case successfully. Well done. A big shout out to the unions who backed them as well to create that momentum and pressure. But can you imagine it? You get through the court system. You've won every single way. They've taken the side of the workers over the big corporation. And what does the government do? Back the corporation, backs the Uber company over the Uber drivers, back the corporations. This is an example of corporate greed over the public good of the workers. But there's more horrible things in this bill, Madam Speaker. That, for example, the 30-day rule. They want to make it harder. They want to revoke the 30-day rule. And for people that don't know what that is if you go to a job and there's a collective contract on there, you can actually get those benefits as well. And then maybe you might want to join the union. With the revocation of that rule now, you don't get to do that. You can show up there and the boss can show you what that looks like, but it isn't automatic. And what that shows is that side doesn't care about the imbalance between employers and employees, between the bosses and the workers. This will make it more and more difficult. And so one of the other things I think is really important to note as well, and I've heard people calling it the fire at will bill, that it will create a fire at will culture, and I think it's really important for us to unpack that as well, and that is around those personal grievance provisions. And just to acknowledge the work of the committee that wanted who raised it, I think, from 180 to 200K as well. But what that means is if you're going to work your way up and you get up to that level, you can no longer take a personal grievance. They can actually just at will fire you. If you get out of line, then they can just, you're down the road. You can't actually access that system. So this is how it looks like with this bill. If you think you're actually an employee and your boss is treating you like a contractor, guess what? The gateway test is going to keep you down there as a contractor in precarious positions, and often those jobs are low-paid jobs as well. But if you manage to get through that and work your way up, and you're getting a bit of coin, you're getting back up there, well, guess what? You better keep your mouth shut, because now you're up there as well. You've got to make sure that you toe the line. Otherwise, if you get out of line, you don't get to access the personal grievance system, Madam Speaker. So bad for both across the spectrum of workers. It creates different classes of workers, and it's bad for both of those classes of workers, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I don't know what we can do to improve this bill. And honestly, we've got the committee stage coming up, which we look to actually try to make some amendments to improve this bill, but I can't see that happening. There are so many terrible, bad things about this bill, made in the context of an avalanche of anti-worker legislation that have come through the House. As it is another example of a government that doesn't care about the workers, don't care that our young people are leaving the country, getting on the plane, going to Australian pastures where actually they have better workers' rights and actually get better jobs. I mean, why would they hang around? What we need to be doing is making sure that we respect workers, that we do everything that we can to protect their rights so that people stay here. Good jobs, being able to put food on the table, keep the lights on, providing enough money so that our young people see living here as a pathway to prosperity. This is not happening under this government, and I hope that the National Party members on that side wake up to it before this agreement that they've got with the National Party forces another one of these rubbish bills down the legislative chute, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, the Green Party will absolutely be not supporting this bill. This bill is anti-worker. This bill is bad for people. It's bad for the communities, and it's actually essentially bad for the economy. It's only good for the corporations and not for the people. We reject this bill.
Grant McCullum.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Bloody scathing.
Well, I've got a great idea for the Uber drivers. Tiana, please spread this around. Every time that an ACT MP orders an Uber and the drivers pick up and see it's an ACT MP, they cancel the Uber trip and drive off.
I'm just wondering with this legislation they're pushing through, like if not the India trade free trade deal that they're getting across the line, what else are they going to be touting at the next election as their big piece of legislation they get through? I can't.
Look. Do I have any chubba chups here?
Like, well, what's one thing they have to say? Like, look, we stopped pay equity claims. Maybe. Yeah. Like, what should they celebrate?
Look, Sam, you need a fortnight's pay to buy this can of beetroot.
Oh yeah.
And tax cuts. Because that costs more than $2.15 for that. I was trying to find the chubba chups, but I don't think I've got any on me.
No.
But I definitely had a can of beetroot. I was like, here's a can of beetroot that costs more than $2.15.
That's that's royal gold right there. Chubba chup.
Yeah. Okay, let's get on to Dodgy Grant.
His official title, Dodgy Grant.
In our own internal ones, yes.
Speaker. Well, anyone think that the world is about to end? Well, actually, I think we on this side of the House understand the world is changing, and we're going into a gig economy, and taking Uber rides has become something that we're all using all the time, even those on the other side of the House, as it happens.
He does look like he's got
whilst we are focused on going to the future, the people on the other side of the House want to go back to the 70s, where everything's controlled and no one can do anything without going and joining a union. So I'd like to make it quite clear, we support those Uber drivers who actually want flexibility, want to do what they want to do, and I commend this bill.
We support the union Uber drivers who don't want to get paid more. We support them.
Yes. Now, the reason why he has the title Dodgy Grant is over the Crime Theft by Employer Amendment Bill, he claimed that the sky would fall in, like, extremely bad.
Oh. And now here he is going, we love the slaves because they take slave wages.
Yeah. It basically, he sat there and said, "Oh, what happens if you have a cash flow problem and you suddenly have a police officer knocking down your door at 6 p.m. at night because the pay hadn't cleared yet?" Sort of thing. Like, took the most extreme example of happening and say, "Oh, but all employees who are vindictive." It's like, the saying goes, every accusation is a confession. And he's always given me dodgy vibes. I'm not sure if you picked up dodgy vibes.
I don't know. What are you saying? He's on the Epstein files or something?
Oh, no. I wouldn't say Grant McCullum would be in there. I mean, put it this way, Epstein was dead by the time people knew who he was. I mean, he's the first team MP from Northland, who may not actually be in the job at the end of it, because it may suddenly sit there and swing back to Northland might swing back to Labour again.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
It's one electorate that could potentially do it. The Whangarei one, I think, is more likely to happen with Gary Paenda.
Well, yeah. Well, because then again, Northland, like, it's as not useful as it's going to be. Northland's getting all this road infrastructure built, so they at least have something that they can be pointed, like someone can point to, be like, "See, we're doing something."
Yeah, but the infrastructure of where the Northland electorate is won't actually come. The section of where they're building it, won't have been built by the time the election happens.
True. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like the Braderans, like I think they're in the Northland electorate, but the replacement road ain't going to be built by the 7th of November.
It's true. All right.
Okay. Let's Mark Patterson.
Honourable Mark Patterson.
Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of New Zealand's First to speak to this Employment Relations Act Amendment Bill. This is the age-old battle between Capital and Labour, of course, that both National and Labour and the parties to their left and right engage in. And New Zealand First sit in the middle and often find ourselves as the arbiter in these employment relations bills. And this is the impact we hope to have on this piece of legislation as well. That does make a suite of changes to our employment relations framework. And as Grant McCullum has just pointed out, this is a gig economy. This is a changing world, a changing nature of work. There does need to be more flexibility. And New Zealand First has always supported and been a champion and recognised the need to have an employment framework that does recognise the need for flexibility. There's a series of tweaks that have been made by the Minister. We do support some of the tweaks to the gateway test, but we have also taken note of the Court of Appeal decision. We support the lift to $200,000 for the personal grievance provisions. We certainly heard some feedback that at the previous threshold, which was 180k, it was capturing the likes of health professionals and the like, and actually making us unappealing in terms of on the international market. It was a bit of an impediment to hiring some of those health professionals, as an example. So we think 200k is a threshold that is better suited. In terms of the Select Committee, it attracted 2,587 submissions. New Zealand First, alas, is not represented on that Select Committee, but I do want those submitters to know that we have taken note of those submissions. We have also had considerable engagement with workers' representatives and the unions that have thrown up some concerns, obviously, and as they've submitted, and we want them to know that we have heard these concerns. We do share some of them. The personal grievance provisions in particular are really important. There's a power imbalance there, and it's how do we get a situation where we can't weaponise, we don't have people weaponising personal grievances as the Minister and employer groups would attest to or would that's essentially their case. But how do we get it where that power imbalance isn't so much that it makes genuine personal grievances from employees just too hard to take? So we have heard the concerns. We are reading the submissions. We are talking to
the only concern you brought up is one that affects
business. So we will continue to engage with the Minister on this. We will continue to build through the process. We do have some concerns and some tweaks that we would like to see.
I worry this legislation that's wonderful towards employers and hard towards employees is too harsh towards the employers.
Now, I'll mention one thing that you might not know. New Zealand First does not have any members on the Education and Workforce Select Committee.
What?
Yep. So on that particular select committee, it has no New Zealand First members. It only has because of the numbers in Parliament. That particular select committee does not have any New Zealand First members. And that's the thing. So a lot of the New Zealand First stuff, if they want to try and make changes to improve it, they have to do it at committee of the House, because that particular select committee has no New Zealand First members. Because New Zealand First only has 8 MPs, and they've only got 4 MPs that are non-executive. Yeah, which is quite a very low number. Even ACT has a lot more non-executive MPs. Yeah. Any comments you want to say from Mark?
Oh, just fucking hell, mate.
Well, put it this way.
Like I said, the one thing he was a stickler for was something that was he thought was unfair towards the employer, not the employees, which I just.
He's an interesting one, Mark Patterson. He's part of that Ron Mark Tracy Martin section of New Zealand First that was around in the Jacinda Ardern government.
Okay.
If that gives you an idea of which type of New Zealand First person he is.
So he's two-faced.
No. He has more liberal, left-leaning, progressive values than, say, the way how Winnie and Shane are behaving.
I'm sorry. I'm supposed to leave him alone. That's right. I'll be nice to him now.
Yeah. Put it this way. I wouldn't say Andy Foster is in the Mark Patterson lot, and I actually respect Andy Foster.
I'll put it this way too. He was Mark was one of the better speakers we had tonight as well. So.
No, New Zealand First typically tends to have good speeches.
Oh no, their whole thing is they're populist. They need to be charismatic. So
exactly. Like Andy, actually, if we sort of rated it, I mean, not so much Mark Patterson, but if we look at Andy Foster, I rate his speeches as some of the best in there.
That's why I'm interested in this Gary versus Shane, because Gary's like the opposite of Shane Jones. Shane Jones is very boisterous and loud and obnoxious, whereas Gary's very reserved, calculating. He's just going to say it in this matter of fact. Like it'd be very interesting to see those two go back. They're like polar opposites, so it'd be very interesting to see them go.
And the thing is, I can see Gary actually delivering more in Parliament than Shane.
Absolutely. Gary's not going to go around doing probably gimmicky shit like bringing a little vial of oil or something, going, check this out.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's get to Orini Kaipara for our last speech of the night.
Oh, Orini. All right.
Next call is a split call. Orini Kaipara.
He Pika, just like many other bills this government has introduced to this House in the last 2 years, the Employment Relations Amendment Bill offers little hope and security to thousands of everyday working families, mums, dads, uncles, aunties, rangatahi, grandparents and adults struggling right now in this very moment. It's not about flexibility. It is not about opportunity. It is about power. Power shifted away from workers and handed straight back to multinational corporations. And it's driven by the likes of Uber, a global giant with a track record of avoiding employment law, underpaying workers, and fighting unions at every turn. You know, Madam Speaker, it's mind-blowing. It really is mind-blowing how near identical their wish list is, almost copied verbatim into New Zealand law. It's basically Uber's wish list right here in this House, and we are here debating it. And the Prime Minister is championing that? This government claims to be fixing the basics, Madam Speaker, but the basic principle of employment law is work deserves dignity, workers deserve protection. Instead, this bill heightens vulnerability to unjustified dismissal and opens the door for a race to the bottom on wages and conditions. The PSA has rightly called this bill the fire at will bill, as my colleagues to the left have explained to this House. The NZCTU has described it as a radical employment bill that threatens every worker in Aotearoa. And you know what? They are tika. They are correct. With this bill, gone are the mechanisms for workers to fight for fair pay and treatment. With this bill, gone are the main measures to hold bad employers to account. In Tāmaki Makaurau and Mairohe, I see whānau juggling multiple jobs. I see them working long hours and still unable to make ends meet. I see rangatahi, youth, entering a workforce or waiting to enter a workforce that offers less protections than what their parents got. I see kaumātua elderly still working because retirement is really not an option. They have no other choice but to continue working to put kai on the table. I feel the tears welling in my own kanohi when I see my own family, including my father, going to job seeker hui week after week and being told that he is too qualified or too underqualified to fit the mould of the only jobs available to him right now. The rules have changed so much, Madam Speaker, that in the last 2 years that the system can't even keep up with the demand. It doesn't even recognise Aotearoa New Zealanders. Many of my constituents in Tāmaki Makaurau are also tangata moana, and they keep our hospitality, construction, security, cleaning and delivery driving industries thriving. Yet, these are all lowly paid jobs, they're high pressure jobs, and this bill tells them that your rights are negotiable and your security is optional. Māori and Pasifika women are not only the lowest paid and least recognised leaders in Aotearoa in this country, and just like every other woman, they're working for free. They're working for free by earning much less than their male counterparts. From a Te Pāti Māori perspective, Madam Speaker, this bill fails every tikanga that exists. In fact, it fails miserably to recognise the mana of tikanga and the need for tikanga to be embedded in employment law to safeguard Māori workers. We're not the same. You can't treat everyone one and the same. Kei hea te tiriti, kei hea te mana o taku iwi Māori. Further, this bill fails to recognise that cultural differences exist, and especially in Tāmaki Makaurau, the largest multicultural city in the world. Where is diversity recognised in this bill? It's not there. My people of Tāmaki Makaurau, they don't need any more rhetoric. Aotearoa doesn't need any more of that. They need fair pay, they need jobs, they need job security, and they need the right to challenge injustice. They need a government that stands with them and not over them. To this end, I will continue to fight for them, for the rights of all workers, and especially for our rangatahi and our wahine. To this end, Te Pāti Māori will push harder for fairness, equity and mana motuhake for tangata whenua. They will continue to prioritise Māori, and we stand vehemently opposing this bill.
Good speech from Orani, as per usual. She's a great orator.
How the hell did she not become an MP any sooner?
Oh, I don't know. She's fantastic. She's like everything.
I don't like. What was she like as a newsreader? That's the thing. You know, I don't remember.
I'm a stickler for. She said the largest multicultural city in the world or something. And I was like, what?
Oh, Auckland, Tāmaki Makaurau.
I don't know quite what she means by that. That's a weird phrase. Are you saying it's the largest city? It's multicultural? I don't think that's the case. Maybe the most multiculturalness per capita in the city, maybe. I don't know.
That part I
heard
would
that.
And say, yeah.
I mean,
you live there, don't you?
Yeah, I do. But it's definitely not bigger than New York, and I can tell you, New York is multicultural.
Yeah, so that's true. That's true.
I don't know what she meant by that. It was an interesting statement, but yeah, no. Look, just straight to the point. Just. It's a bullshit bill, pretty much. It seems like she got shorter time than other people.
Yes, no. So the thing about Te Pāti Māori is that they only get, at second and third reading, they only get 5 minutes because they don't have, it's a certain number of MPs.
Okay.
And I think, because, I mean, okay, they don't have 6 now, but they used to have 6. They would only get 5 minutes, but if they had, say, 9 or 10 MPs, they would get 10 minutes.
Interesting.
So it is something in there, which is the fact that if you're under a certain number, you don't get the full speech entitlement. It's
in New Zealand, Simon. That's probably the case, I guess. But again, I think she said the world. I can't remember though. We have to go back, but.
I'm not going to sit there.
Even then, it's like, what do you mean the most multicultural city? Like, it has the most cultures, the most people from different ethnic backgrounds per capita. I don't know. Like,
exactly.
It's not a specific claim.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the bills of where you've got to put in submissions that are coming up, closing up. The Emergency Management Amendment, Bill number 2, closes on Tuesday, the 3rd of February. The Budget Policy Statement closes on Wednesday the 4th. If you want to tell Nicola Willis, tax more, tax wealth more, tax workers less. The Commerce Promoting Competition and Other Matters Amendment Bill closes on Wednesday the 4th of February. The Planning Bill and Natural Environment Bill closes on Friday the 13th of February. The arms bill closes on Monday, the 16th of February. The Crimes Amendment Bill, the one that Sonny, who runs a dairy, would like to citizens arrest all alleged thieves, closes on Monday, the 16th of February. Maybe if you want to hold a citizen's arrest, you should have to have a license for it to be trained and qualified, like you have to do when it comes to owning guns. Buildings Earthquake-Prone Amendment Bill closes on Monday, the 16th of February. And the Infrastructure Funding Amendment Bill closes on Friday, the 20th of February. And the inquiry into the 2025 local body elections closes on Friday, the 27th of February. And it's in the ballot. We'll certainly be putting in a submission on that one.
You are so organised. You even got QR codes for all of them. What was that last one? The inquiry into is that a usual thing that you just use to do an inquiry to the prior elections?
Yes, that's quite normal.
Okay, that's
normal. And we put one for the 2023 general election, and because we had our own issues in the 2023 general election of trying to get candidates' contact details, like Auckland Central's returning officer refused to give them to us.
Interesting.
And he goes, but my decision is final. And it went up to the CEO after the election. The CEO said he screwed up. Like, he got sent a whole copy of the email. And it was just like, and that came via the Justice Select Committee. And they're like, what the flaming hell?
And what was the consequence?
Yeah, I don't know. But I think
exactly.
I think the person, it's the nuisance of the timing of it, because it was they mucked us around at the same time. Like, the ones who gave us the details gave them out immediately. The ones who mucked us around had to be chased up like crazy, who just mucked us around and all sorts of things there. I mean, try having like one who went a bit outside the scope to get it working, and she gave out the wrong phone number. So she ended up because we have it as that the candidates deal with candidate liaison. So what did she do? Give out my phone number. So I'm having Darlene Tana ring me. Lovely person though, lovely person. That interaction on the phone call, I'm not sure if I'll say that now, but I'll say that at the time. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean,
man of anecdotes.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Any queries, gripes, groans, moons you'd like to sit there and add?
Look, honestly, I'm starting to wear down. It's getting late for me. I got work in the morning, all that stuff, so I'm sort of starting to drift, so I think it's probably time.
Smart idea.
Yeah. We were going to be doing our show Aotearoa tomorrow. We're going to be returning, but I think we're going to cancel now because my co-host Magenta is having internet issues. I think they need.
Oh, is it still not fixed?
Nah, apparently. So there you go.
Magenta can always sit there and flip me a message and get the 4G router and borrow my 4G router for the day or for the time.
You could talk to them about it. I won't be the middleman.
No, fair enough. No. Well, that's an option.
Anyway, anyone who curious about that, go just search up Aotearoa tonight.
Fair enough. And it's very interesting.
We do live every Monday. We're sort of variety show, hour show right now. Still figuring out what we want to do. I'm just trying to have fun. Just live streaming on Mondays, talk sort of politics and just other random stuff that goes on.
I just want to ask, what software do you use for broadcasting?
I'm just using OBS. It's all custom. Everything's custom done. We do it through Video Ninja is what we use to get the call in.
Yeah, so basically have your feed and Magenta's feed coming in.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. No, I was always wondering what you guys used actually.
Well, because I want to do other like long form episodes, like non-live stuff. I want to do historic stuff on the side as well. So we got other content coming out. It's just I don't know why we're doing live streaming stuff. I don't know. Magenta wants to do live stream, so we do live stream.
I don't know. I enjoy it live. It's just a shame tonight's been a crap night on audience, but I'll probably say it's because of BHM with
Craig had his thing on, yeah,
and I know that sucked out so much of our audience. Yeah, I was watching it up until 8 o'clock.
But yeah, but the handy thing is I've found it's at least getting me in the regular rhythm of every week I do an episode, so at least we're churning content out.
Try spending about 10 hours a week doing this, 2 hours broadcasting, 8 hours of post-production.
So much evident. Yeah. Absolutely. But thank you very much for having me tonight.
No problem. Have you been the second backup Laura?
Backup
Yeah.
lawyer. Yeah, I'll call myself that next time.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we'll flick on the closing credits and we'll see you guys all back next weekend at 8 p.m. for more from the Order Paper Podcast.
Thank you very much. Ka kite.
Thank you for watching The Order Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. From our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa, New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/itsinthaballot. The Order Paper Podcast is brought to you by